From this moment, you are responsible for what happens to her, and if you're looking out for her well-being, I suggest you advise her to pick up the injection gun and bring it to me. Ball's in your court, Hunt.
Nyah's in the building. Do you copy?
Thank you. How do you know he won't shoot you the minute he's got it?
Please. One can't hold Nyah responsible for our actions. You know women, mate. Like monkeys they are. Won't let go of one branch till they get a grip on the next. Get it, Nyah. I'll cover you.
Do you expect me to talk?
Good evening, gentlemen. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to review a god-awful Mission Impossible 2. As always, should you or any of your do expect to talk force, be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions. This introduction will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Yes, this is 149 edition of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm your host, Becca, and as always, joined by Chris and Dave. How are you doing?
Good evening, folks. I do think you were kind of leading the witnesses there. You've given us a mission to review the God.
Spoiler alert! I reviewed it. It's god awful.
Well,
That's
we
it.
know
Good night.
what kind
Bye.
of review our bosses are looking for now.
Spoiler alert! It's not very good.
So I completely missed what Becca said because I was too busy listening to my Limp Bizkit CD.
Yeah.
So seriously, in 2000, what the fuck were we all thinking? I mean, like they were the biggest band at that time.
Just a bit easier for Tom Cruise to go and buy a sports car or something, or have an affair with a woman in her 20s or something. This just
Not with Andy Newton, no.
There's something very, very overreaching about putting a load of rock into this, isn't it? It's what Tom Cruise thinks is cool as a then 38-year-old man.
Well, it's like I said last week. This is like Mission Impossible : midlife crisis. Really, this is him trying to I'm the biggest movie star in the world, and I'm gonna show the world that I am shit hot and I can do this action shit. And the thing that strikes me the most about it is, just going off the poster alone, and same when you watch the movie, you could we're going to reference Ben Stiller later on, I'm sure, but it could easily just be Ben Stiller, and it could be one of them them films you see in Tropic Thunder. You know what I mean?
It could be winner of MTV's Best Kiss.
Yeah, but everything down to that poster of just that straight up picture of him and just fire around him.
Yeah, and the scar on the cheek.
Yeah.
There was one bit towards the end of the film, which I'll just, in case I forget to say it then, it made me think of that episode where Homer Simpson changed his name to Max Power.
Max Power.
Because he saw a trailer for a TV program, and in that trailer, some guy who was like a criminal who was clearly out on the floor suddenly came to, waved a gun and fired it at Max Power, and Max caught the bullet, threw it back at him to kill him. And it wouldn't have been out of place with this film if that had happened.
It's that kind of film, isn't it? It's that kind of film.
I've got I won't do it yet, but certainly I was listening to this score, and all the way through I was thinking, what is this reminding me of? And I don't mean literally the score, although Chris, talking off air, I know it made you think of other things, but I don't mean that's a riff from something else, but I just mean what is this evoking? And I'll get to it a little bit later, because the things this film makes me think of does not complement this film. It could have been so different though, because I found because it came out in 2000, I thought, well, 4 years if you went straight to a sequel is actually quite a long time. So I thought maybe they hadn't thought about it for a couple of years. But apparently only a few months after Mission Impossible, they were looking for people to write a sequel. And the first person they went to was William Goldman, Now, William Goldman, you probably know best on screen for All the President's Men. He plays quite a sizable role in that. But his screenplays include all the President's Men. He wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He wrote, well, I don't know if he wrote the screenplay of Marathon Man, but it was certainly based on his work. He wrote the Princess Bride. There's loads of stuff like that, and more if I looked at it. I'm trying not to look at too much, but his name is against so many things, and he's just very, very prolific writer and a prestige writer, and a novelist as well. So I really don't know where they were going with that as an idea. Various versions of the script get produced by different people over time, but there was certainly a spell where Oliver Stone was attached. Someone did point me to that and just said, but Oliver Stone was involved, and I actually listened to some of what was in mind for his version and actually tuned out about halfway through. It was not that because the main problem with the Mission Impossible 2 we've got is not the concept. It's not like I need to go and hear a load of better pitches. There's nothing wrong with a sort of ticking clock and a virus as a storyline.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was desperate to hear all these better pitches. The devil is in the detail. John Woo eventually became attached, but and he was the instructions from Cruise and Wagner were ignore the first film. But Woo had not been a fan of the first film. That doesn't shock me watching anything John Woo's ever produced. But he said he found the film a little bit sort of cold and uninvolving, and I sort of see his point, to be honest with you, to that degree. But they said to him, forget the first film. We want a John Woo movie. And Chris really will get to that in a minute, because John Woo's cinema much, much better than me. I've seen a handful of his English language films. I don't think I've seen any of his native films at all. One or two of them I'm not sure about. I think I might have done, but if I did, it was years ago. And actually, if I'm unsure, I tend to say no, I haven't. Based on his English language stuff, I don't like him at all. But there we will come to that. But two big delays. So I thought, well, if they were hiring people so quickly, why did it take so long? Two major delays. Just before they went to filming, the script wasn't in any condition, so they sort of took an extra month or so with people on their way to the sets. They had hotels booked and everything else they needed to, and it got delayed by a month or so. An earlier delay was the Stanley Kubrick film Eyes Wide Shut, because obviously they signed up for a few weeks of filming for that, Tom and Nicole, and ended up shooting that for about 18 months. So that's all how we ended up with who we've ended up with when we ended up with this film. Thought John Woo was an unusual choice. Chris, John Woo, thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, once upon a time he was my favourite director when I was like in my late teens or say, when I was, in my sort of, I've just started reading Empire magazine days, right. Because, I was, being also a fan, fan of Bond. I was a huge action movie fan. So when you start sort of getting more into film, you start reaching out more about what's other films out there, and you start listening to Hong Kong cinema, and then you realise you're seeing about films like Bulletproof and The Killer, like the best action movies ever. You think, what, really? Fucking hell! And so by the time you have like Face Off was coming out and things like that, and that was getting rave reviews, and Face Off is probably, in terms of his English language films, is probably his better film. You could probably make a case for Hard Target, with depending if you tolerate Van Damme or not. But
I tend not to.
But but to be fair, in terms of Van Damme, that is one of his best.
No, that's fine. No, I would understand that. I mean, Van Damme at one time was producing an enormous amount of films. I mean, the amount of like direct-to-DVD fucking bollocks he did. But if you were a Van Damme fan, there was loads of stuff. So you got plenty of him, and I'm aware if you produce that amount of material, there's going to be a variation in quality, and there will be, by the law of averages, some that are like better than the average.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know too much about Hard Target. No.
Yeah, I mean, Hard Target is weird because it was John Woo's first English language film,
Yes.
and by that time he was like literally lauded as like this hot talent from from another place. You know what I mean? It's like introducing like this to like Western audiences, and while he had like filmmakers like Tarantino at the time, like singing his praises. He did. I mean, the guy was like lauded, and they were good at, and this how much they tried to actually introduce that and bring him over here was Tarantino pitched it to the I think it was Universal that ended up doing it, and in order to
Hard Target,
Hard Target, and
just looking
and
that
when
up, it is Universal Pictures, yes.
And in order to like cement it, because obviously you have to strike deals, you have to get things moving. In case things fell through, Sam Raimi actually agreed to direct it. So if John Woo for whatever reason did not end up making Hard Target, Sam Raimi signed up. It would have been Sam Raimi film.
A contingency deal, yeah.
Yeah. So this is like how much like so like Tarantino, Sam Raimi was that much like no, we really need to bring John Woo into Western cinema, and
I will underwrite the risk of trying to get him.
Yeah. So so it was basically that, and you look at a film like The Matrix, which came out a year before this film, Mission Impossible. It's like in terms of like the way the action scenes are, they are undoubtedly like John Woo. Like sort of, people with sunglasses, dressed in trench coat, slow mo, using two guns, that kind of shit. That is his motif. You watch that thing.
Yes.
That's John Woo film. That is.
And also, we see a scene with pigeons as well. He also uses like doves or other birds.
Yes.
In his films as well, in terms of
which looks hilarious. I expect Bonnie Tyler to walk out fucking.
Turn around.
Yeah. I mean, like it is. I mean, it is overused. I mean, when you watch like something like The Killer or like Hard Boiled or something. I mean, I'd say particularly The Killer, because I think Hard Boiled is actually a little bit westernized anyway.
Yeah.
If I've seen one, it's likely to be The Killer.
Yeah.
Just because the name's ringing a bell and what I'm looking at rings a bell. It's possible I've seen The Killer. If that's it, that's all I've seen. I'm looking at Hard Boiled now to see if that's familiar, and it isn't.
I'd recommend if you reach across and decide, we're going to watch John Woo's two foreign languages. This is like his two later ones before he moved over to start making a movie. I would recommend those two.
So why is it, in your opinion, then, and it's only your opinion, obviously, but why, in your opinion, was he this lauded Asian director, and by and large, his English language product is just not that well thought of? Face Off has a certain cult appeal.
Yeah.
But like,
that's
probably the closest to one being like a bit lauded, if you like, because there was a spell where everyone
was
like,
5 stars that film when it came out.
Yeah.
Everyone was like
years later. Yeah, but it is one of those things that's dropped in the interim.
Yeah.
People look at it and just go, "It's all right."
Yeah.
But I mean, Broken Arrow was a bit of a nothing film. Mission Impossible 2 we're going to talk about. Wind Talkers did fuck all, and Paycheck was laughable.
Paycheck was aptly named.
It was really aptly named. I just felt I look at Ben Affleck and I think, well, I know you got a drink problem and stuff, but I feel a bit sorry for you sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's very rare you're going to feel sorry for a good-looking, fucking like super wealthy, Hollywood guy. But I just think like a bit like Ryan Reynolds, he went through a spell in his career where he did everything for the right idea because it's working with John Woo and stuff like that. And the end results were not coming out very well for quite a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's the So to get back to my original question, what seems to work natively that doesn't work here?
I think it's probably a mixture of different things. I think also there's probably a fact of like, whenever there's peak points in people's careers, isn't there? When you start to decline, I think that's probably an aspect. I think also
it's just like he'd had his purple patch.
Yeah, like it's like okay, well, you kind of like you reached your peak. What do? And you just you for lack of a better word, you kind of start just regurgitating or I don't know. It's not like anyone's fault. Like they deliberately do it. I don't know. It just seems to happen at times. But I think it's probably partly I think it's an odd thing to describe, but I think it's like a bit of a language barrier, or like thing that just doesn't transition well. Like when I was looking at Mission Impossible 2, this film, I think, well, I do often think, if this was a Hong Kong film, like if you just like literally just change like the actors into Hong Kong like Chinese actors,
and just pick somewhere in the Far East that looks like all the locations.
Would we still be down on this? You know, and I think the answer is probably no. People will be, yeah, it's fair enough, it's decent, fair enough.
Play a bit better.
You know what I mean? And I think it's just
you do deal with what odd stylistic quirks differently when it comes to a different culture, because you actually see yourself as open-minded in sort of like accepting it, whereas it's
a language barrier thing. It's like sometimes think, oh, you know, you just kind of like just come, it's like you say, you just come a bit more open to it. You accept things that are a bit different that wouldn't necessarily work in a Western film, but you think something that seems a bit weird, just think, oh well, that's just like, it must be that thing.
Yeah, I mean, Mission Impossible 2, I thought about this today. I was largely thinking about the score, which I'll comment on later. Spoiler alert, I don't like it very much. But I've noticed that it gives the film almost like this sort of tone poem feel. It's got because there's not actually, comparatively, a huge amount of dialogue in this film. Now, there is, compared to some of the action films we might reference where no one says anything, and there's certainly more than you'd get in the average John Wick film. But I noticed it tonight. There's a lot of parts of this film where score is doing all the work and no one's saying very much. I do wonder if his experiences here hurt him, though, just on the basis that Paycheck was early 2003 and he didn't do anything for 5 years afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably just back to the first point, the fact that he just kind of, I don't care anymore. Do you know what I mean?
In his native language now as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did Redcliffe a few years ago, which is like this big,
Redcliffe
massive.
was the next thing he did.
And
that looks like it's got massive
the sequel
scale.
A year later, or a few years later. It's fairly quick.
I suspect they shot them back to back looking at it there, because they're one part Lord of the Rings style.
Well, they tend to do that, I think, don't they? Within Age of Cinema as well.
Yeah, I think Redcliffe is like just one massive big film. Or they just sort of like two part.
Imperial China.
Yeah, but
on awards as well. Looking at it over there, anyway. It broke the Asian
now
box.
the Chinese audience is everything.
Well, it wasn't back here because it broke.
No.
It broke. It did. Hang on a minute. It broke the Asian box office record previously held by Titanic in mainland China. Well, its total box office is about 250 million, and when you think the Avengers opened to more than that in China in one weekend, the Chinese market is somewhat different now 10 years on. But so I don't know that much about him, I have to say. I just know that I effectively go off the British language stuff, and I don't like it. When everyone was wanking off about Face Off when I was in my early 20s, it was shit. I didn't like it. I just did not like it at all. And I can't tune into... It's not like the films have a slightly campy charm. If they were nodding and winking, it would transform them. But actually, I find him a little bit serious. It's like it's a joke we're not in on.
It's like this film. I think while Tom Cruise is actually pretty good in this, like he's absolutely fine. But the problem is the film around it requires him to be a little bit Roger Moore-ish. Like, do you know what I mean? It requires him to kind of like just not take it as seriously. But the problem with Tom Cruise is, unless he realizes that he's in a comedy, he is so full on. He is so committed and like. I know. So you have to like sort of, Tom, we're doing a comedy here, so.
Other notable things about this film is obviously they started late, which meant they finished late, and it cost Doug Ray Scott what might have been a defining role for him, because he'd been cast as in the X-Men film as Wolverine. When you look back at the original X-Men film from the year 2000 now, it's noticeable when you see Hugh Jackman without a shirt at one point in the film that he's not actually that buff compared to later. He's not that toned, he's not shredded. And one of the reasons for that is he was just so late to the party. He was just a late replacement because Doug Ray Scott was required in Australia to finish off Mission Impossible 2. So it cost him a career-defining role.
Yeah, it could have been Wolverine.
But
Think of that.
but
Potentially, I mean,
X-Men could have been that big a hit, and it could have just like, oh well, then you know.
That was the next point being, if you had to pick X-Men at this point or Mission Impossible 2, Mission Impossible 2 is the surer bet, although it's not like he chose. He was going to do both. And obviously we're assuming he went on to have anything like the impact in the role Hugh Jackman did, which is far from definite, because obviously there's a sort of almost a chemical reaction between actor and character. You know, he's perfectly good in what he does, but whether he would have worked in the same way as Wolverine, we'll never know now. But he had to pull out at the last minute. Hugh Jackman sort of went, "Yeah, I'll do it," and sort of was nowhere near physically ready for it, but did it anyway and made do. And obviously, it's become one of the signature roles in comic book movies. Full stop.
Yeah, he is now iconic in the role. He'll probably be entwined
absolutely.
as Wolverine.
And when I look at Doug Ray Scott's filmography, it's not that amazing. He's been in a few films I've seen. You know, he was at Ripley's Game, which was a Talented Mr. Ripley.
That was a really good film.
Not Talented Mr. Ripley, Ripley's Game, the one with...
Oh, yeah, that was not so good film.
That had John Malkovich in it.
That was one of the weaker entries, I think.
He was in Dark Water, which was a Jennifer Connelly remake of an Asian film, which I've seen. I'm looking at it. He was in... I'm trying to spot things. He was in the Timothy Oliphant hit, man. Which wasn't good at all. I'm just looking at films here, really. Death Race 3 Inferno.
Oh, dear. When it's got a subtitle, you know it's bad. When it's got a...
Taken 3.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, there's no
What was that
doubt...
British film he was in? Let's have a look.
So, well, he was in Soldier, wasn't he, originally?
Is that where he made his name?
I think so.
Didn't know
I
that.
can actually remember him now you talk about it, yeah.
I didn't see very
Twin
many
Town,
episodes.
Twin Town he was in, but that was all before this, as was Deep Impact. So yeah, we're looking at a guy who could have obviously...
Enigma, that was it.
But he's married to Claire Fognini, so not all bad.
Claire Forlani is lovely. I remember seeing her in a crap film years ago called Boys and Girls, which was just shit. But I kept watching it because I was like, who is that? And I never ever, joking aside, I never watch a film for like an attractive woman. I just
This
don't.
is Doug Ray Scott.
But I was watching it, I thought, I'm not switching this off. So yeah, he's married to Claire Forlani. He's probably best known for Meet Joe Black. Sorry?
She in Mallrats as well.
I can't remember if she was in Mallrats. She was certainly in, I say Boys and Girls, which was a similar type of film. Yeah, she was in Mallrats, although I can barely remember her in it. I haven't seen Mallrats for a while.
She was like the second female lead, the one that wasn't like...
Shannon Doherty.
Yeah.
Now, the Daniel Craig film, Flashbacks of a Fool, I've not seen, and she was in that.
Oh, I've not seen that one either.
I've not seen that. You made that. That came out just before Quantum Solace. So
maybe we can do a Doug Ray Scott.
In the immediate sort of glow, I'm not doing... Looking at what Doug Ray Scott has made in his career, I don't think this is a viable series.
No, me neither. I was only joking.
I think Claire Forlani now does more TV than anything else. She's had recurring roles on various things, but again, neither of them are as famous as they could have been. I remember the film Hallam Foe, which had Jamie Bell in it. She was in that.
Yeah, that was
good.
A role for him.
That had, what was she called from the live action Thunderbirds film? The one who played Lady Penelope.
Sophia Miles.
Yeah, she was in that. She was in Hallam Foe.
Yes, that was a really good film.
Wearing very little in places. But yeah, she was also in Green Street, apparently, which I've not seen. I've never bothered with.
That's a good film. It's a bit cheesy in places, but it's kind of one of those they do like dodgy accents. But
well, I had the
if you like to glamorise your football hooligan, yeah.
Well,
I
watched
an
ID
interesting
10
look at
years
it.
before, you know, it's like I've seen that film. It's just under a different name with Rhys Dinsdale in it. So, yeah, what else is... I think that's about it in terms of sort of build-up to it. So it was plagued by delays. It did run through a few different directors. Brian De Palma was not attached, but talked to. Brian De Palma did have first refusal, but obviously did not take that up for whatever reason he chose. The end version of the story is Ronald D. Moore and Brandon Braga, who are best known for Star Trek.
Yes, who we've met before on the series.
Generations and stuff. The screenplay is Robert Towne, which just blows my mind because this is
script doctor Robert Towne.
Yeah, but this is just not fucking Robert Towne, is it?
No, it's clearly not. But I do think it's it's in response to, because obviously the first Mission Impossible film, one of its like major criticisms was that the script and the plot was too convoluted, and so this time it's really been pared back. They did as an action set piece, explain the plot, action set piece, explain the plot, and it's just like, oh really?
I don't really get that about the first one. I understand that's a
no, I don't get it either.
But it's not difficult. I mean, there's a couple of bits I forgot last week where I thought
it's not Mission difficult. It's Mission Impossible.
It's like there's one bit in the film where he talks to like John Voight and says why, and the answer
Don't
seems
you want to know why?
But the screenwriters might as well have just had him say, "Don't know."
Shrugs.
But that's it. So yeah,
I think that's why they kind of went the other way. I mean, as I say, audience reactions might have been, no, this is perhaps a bit too difficult to comprehend, to understand. And I think this time around they've kind of lurched the other way and said, okay, we'll spoon feed you a lot of it.
I mean, like, but to be fair though, I mean, Tom Cruise is always trying to pitch the Mission Impossible series as like a different flavour, should we say, each film. Like each film has
it's a different type of action movie, isn't it, each time?
Yeah, so it could just like gel with that. I mean, the plot isn't like. I mean, it's quite straightforward, but then so is the first one. That's pretty straightforward. It's just like it's just in tone.
The convoluted is you didn't really pay attention and there wasn't enough action in it for you.
That's the bottom line.
Is not that difficult. You remember it as more difficult than it is. Mm. Some of the Bond films have got more difficult plots than the first Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of the Roger Moore era films where they're going off to find something or other is more convoluted than Mission Impossible.
Probably for Eyes Only, you could probably say.
Yeah.
That's quite complex.
Although that's just the powers of the West chasing a Toby activity centre.
And a talking parrot.
Give us a kiss. Oh, Mr. Bond.
Oh, that's funny when the major plot point is given away by a snitch parrot.
Given away by a parrot.
Anyway. Sorry, the script is not the worst bit of this film. It's the flashiness of the direction. I mean, a couple of times during this film I thought I'd die another day. It's not as bad as
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, we'll come to it.
Well, you're in that era, aren't you, though? You're in that era where you're all like...
It's more the fact that when you look at the first 35... Right, the received wisdom amongst Bond fans, which I don't agree with, but I see their point entirely, is that the first half of Die Another Day is not that bad. And it's like, it really fucking is, because it's so badly directed. It's so drawing attention to itself. It's the first half is not good, and we explained that in a review and a commentary. So it's out there, folks. If you've never heard us talk about Die Another Day, go to the website, find the episodes from early to mid 2016, because it's not on iTunes at the moment, but more on that later. And I just thought, actually, the director's getting in the way of this. If you stripped all this out and went for a fairly neutral visual and audio style, would this be bothering me as much? And it's like, actually, no. It would still be the weakest Mission Impossible film, but not by such a grand distance. Yeah,
it's definitely more... to me, I mean, I'm going to be the more favourable of the three out of the two. Just, I think, simply this time, because I watched it and I kind of like, I don't hate it. And I think I just I got on board with what they were trying to do, but I could kind of see just where they fell off the mark. Like,
I didn't hate it.
Apparently John Woo, because he's that kind of guy, he wanted to make a love story. Now, the problem here, as we'll get to, is that the love story happens like within the first 15 minutes, and then the rest, and then it's just after the rest of the film. Whereas they should have just rather than just bang each other as soon as they saw each other, and then that's it. That's the romance right there and there. They should have extended that, so it's there's tension and there's build up and there's character work and there's do you know what I mean? It's not
they've kind of gone into it backwards, haven't they? They've kind of done it the other way around.
I mean, I get why, because they're kind of thinking oh well, there needs to be stakes and there needs to be affection for each other, so we have to get to the bit where they get to that as soon as we can, so for the rest of the film to work. When I'd say no, for the rest of the film to work, you don't need that. There's plenty of other options you could have gone down could have made it work, and that it build towards the end where they...
Not only that, it becomes really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because if in life, as I would say the majority of people are, you are into monogamy, it's really fucking awkward watching her go back to like the other guy, and Tom Cruise is like kind of like half watching it, like, oh, I don't like this. But yeah, so I guess that segues us into opening thoughts, really, Chris. So you're basically on the line of it. It's not that bad.
I mean, look, I'm not going to push back about any of the negative opinions of this, because I probably agree. I see its flaws. I just didn't hate it. I can sort of see the effort, and for all the sense, like seeing some of the stunt work, that John Woo did. It was like, you know what? I can kind of see it. I just think it's a mixture of I think the Hans Zimmer score is just all over the place. Like there was never any. There was never
really
any like what
place.
one. It seems like. It seems like you sort of like, you thought, Hans, we need a score. You kind of looked in his drawer about all the random bits he's made. You go, oh, right.
Well,
there you go.
I
We need something to theme. What have you got so far? Limp Bizkit. All right, so like heavy riff guitar. Okay, I'll knock that out on my laptop for about 15 minutes. Here you go. Okay, done.
I agonised over the score. Finish your first thoughts, and I will follow in with a bit on score. Go on.
Okay, I also think not to knock Sydney, Australia, but for whatever reason, it just does not work here. I mean, I've never been to Sydney, Australia, so I can't really comment too much. But the locations that they used, I'm sorry, it just looked really, really bland. It looked kind of like you picked...
And it is one of the famous cities of the world. You could have probably shot it more inventively.
Probably. I mean, but it's like this is
even though you see like the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and you see
see kangaroos in the desert.
The opera building as well. But you see it for like
Sydney
5
Harbour
seconds.
Bridge
Like,
was
twice.
one of the playboys in that area.
Well, you know what I mean, like the famous bridge that goes across the bay.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you see the opera house as well, but it's like you see it for like 5 seconds, like twice in the entire film. It's like they could have used more. Well, obviously it's quite an iconic location, but I would agree with you there, Chris. I kind of got the impression that the fact that it was in Sydney just happened to be inconsequential. It didn't really feel for me like if they use a location where they can feel like a character in the film. I didn't really get that here, unfortunately.
Yeah. Like you got your big action scene, and it's like it's done like in a kind of like sparse green bendy road area where no one's around. Yeah, could be anywhere. And
although there is similar in Rogue Nation in that regard.
Yes,
there's a little bit
But
of
a
that
bike
going
chase
on.
in that is twisty mountain roads.
But yes,
just generic twisty mountain road, could be anywhere.
Yeah,
Not
could be
picking
France.
fault with your logic, by the way. I'm just saying that there's precedent for something similar in a better film.
no.
Yeah, well, you get that wherever you go. So.
But I think that's that. I mean, look, if you had to look at the two chases there, I think we all know which one looks better. Even though like that is your bog standard desert bendy road, it's still like you know where you are. You got that vibe here. It's just like a bit of greenery.
It's quite interesting
it's
how
not like
Sydney, Australia
it's
looks
not
nothing like in California.
Yeah, it's not like it's like New York City. We got like lots of incoming traffic and lots of shit happening around or anything like that. Or I mean, they could have even done it like Hong Kong itself. I mean, that will make sense. Like big high tech company at the center of it. John Woo directing, just take it to Hong Kong. Why not? But anyway, yeah. So I think the location as well just kind of cheapens it. I also think, and this is going to go back to like sort of John Woo's style here. When you look at his stuff, particularly in like Hong Kong, like John Woo's pretty much like loves musicals. That's why kind of like action cinema is kind of like parallel to musicals. So it's all pretty much about movement and and flow and that. But here, because it's kind of really kind of thought out and graceful and everything's sort of slow mo, there's no fucking blood at all. When you watch the Hong Kong stuff, I mean, there's shitloads of fucking bullet holes.
Okay.
There's like insane amount of gore, like over the top. Like people like getting shot like with like sort of 100 times unnecessarily so. and it kind of works when when action is that graceful. It kind of just falls a bit flat. It feels almost like a video game. So you need that sort of grounding of like actual violence to kind of like see something that's both graceful and brutal at the same time. That makes it work here, because I can't remember whether it was. I want to say it would have been a 12, I guess. But
yeah, I would say so.
It's just too toned down, and it needed at least a bit of weight, a little bit of heaviness. Like, you know, even like with the 12 action we see today, we may not see blood, but we feel the punches, so to speak.
Casino Royale's always the gold standard for me.
Yeah,
definitely.
Of how you push the boundaries of a 12A without really pushing the boundaries of a 12A. I don't think just on Casino Royale, I doubt it was that close to an R rating, but it kind of feels like it is. Yeah.
So yeah, I do think there's something, because when you see the action here, that is pretty much like bloodless and just pretty. I want to say throwaway, because it just feels almost like you're playing a video game, and that's kind of Woo its worst aspect. That's just like Woo by numbers. You know, there's you know, it just doesn't work when you compare it to his other stuff. You know, even like say Hard Target. I mean, that's an 18 film, and that has more hard hitting violence, as well as like the stylistic stuff that he does. You know, the action works better there. You know, when you compare, but when you look at this, it just feels very much like, yeah, we had to completely tone it down, and I think that's kind of, you know, it fails to be a John Woo movie in that aspect. It's, you know, but anyway, but yeah, Tom Cruise is great, even though he's kind of playing more serious than he needs to be.
He's in the wrong film slightly, isn't he?
Yeah,
or he set a tone for this film that it could have done without.
I could have easily bought, like, this could have easily been a comedy had it been Ben Stiller instead, and he was just like doing lines of dialogue, but in a slightly tough guy Zoolander voice. Like, he could have
basically do the exact same script.
Yeah,
it's funny as fuck when that dove flies out of that room.
It's like the you know, it's like the beginning. It's like, well, you know, if I told you where I was, this, you know, it wouldn't be a vacation. If it was Ben Stiller delivering that, I'm sure that would have played as a comedy.
Yeah, as long as his
he's in the wrong movie. His
lips went blue steel every time he put the glasses on.
Yeah. So and also, I'm kind of mixed about Dougray Scott, because I think, God bless him, he does give it a good fucking go, and he does seem to be enjoying himself.
This is where it felt 90s, Chris, though. This felt like he felt like a 90s Eurotrash villain. But you got Gary Oldman played a few of them. The Crow had one a bit like it. Yeah. But
I can't help but think. I mean, we always say, why don't we just let actors do their original accents? Why does it matter? And
what accent did he do in this?
He's his natural Scottish.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And I just think...
I thought you were going to tell me suddenly he was like American through.
No.
He's kind of known for the accents, is he?
Yeah, no. I was gonna say this is kind of thing. Maybe if he just played it American, or maybe if he did like just an English, because that, like, you know, like kind of, you know, because English is a bit more like a villainous accent.
And then you've got Brendan Gleeson doing a plummy English accent, as obviously head of the pharmaceutical company, so he puts on a very plummy British accent.
So I don't know. It just would, you know. It's some reason, like, I don't think you can quite do evil and Scottish at the same time. You know, it just doesn't quite work, does it?
We should have Master of Accents, Richard Roxburgh, doing it instead.
Yeah, and you got Richard Roxburgh, who's
Australian,
who is from Australia, in like playing a bad guy in Australia doing South African. Why?
Yeah, and it sounded, to my ears, it sounded awful.
I didn't place it at first, but then I think there was a problem with the sound on my Blu-ray player, and then I was like, actually no, it's a South African accent. But he's quite good, I think. I remember he was in
Moulin Rouge around this time.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. There's another film that I saw him in, and he had like a really plummy accent in that one.
Playing a blonde-haired henchman called Stamp.
Yeah, I was thinking, that's. I must confess, like I do love. Obviously, I love Bond. I love Mission Impossible, but for me, it's pretty much like Bond did it better. And I was thinking. Yeah. Literally, I was okay. That's from 20 Never Dies. That's from GoldenEye. That's from this.
But it doesn't feel like a Bond film, though.
Well, no, it's completely different. It's altogether different because obviously it's born out of the same genre. I think arguably without one we wouldn't have the other. But I was just literally like, that sounds like this, or this is very familiar to that, and it's just like, oh, here we go again. But yeah, this one is, as I say, a completely different animal, and you have to look at it on its own, on its own merits. Yeah.
Well, if you went back to the 60s, that's probably true, Becca. When you think about when Mission Impossible started, and then you had stuff like Matt Helm come along and The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Exactly.
It's all like trying to cash in on the spy craze that is Bond.
Exactly. And I think when Kennedy said Promotion of Love Start, that was his full-time favourite novel as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of might have helped kickstart the boom, certainly in terms of its popularity in America as well. So. For me, just looking at the history and the genesis, I think kind of that's where it all came from, really.
But it's less that the film exists because, I don't know, GoldenEye did or something like that. It's that the TV show existed because of Bond. And then So yeah, absolutely. It doesn't feel like a Bond film, but you're absolutely right. You just point to things and you go, yeah, that is a bit, I suppose.
You can see that there's a bit of intertext into kind of intertwining, I guess, whatever you like to call it.
So what did you think of it?
Hated it. No, I didn't really hate it. No.
I'd say if you did, you wouldn't be the first person to hate this film.
Bloody awful. I'd probably rank Die Another Day and then this film. No, I'm probably a bit more aligned with Chris. Really, I must say I'm aware of John Woo's movies and his place within certainly Asian cinema, also Hollywood action cinema as well. But I'm not like as much as I was going to call you a super fan, Chris. Sorry, but he's not been like number one director, unfortunately. But yeah, I can see where they kind of started to go wrong and where plot holes arise due to the nature of this film being cut to shreds. Basically, I think the original cut was something like over 3 hours, and it was super violent. And a lot of that was toned down, and I think the studio were like, oh no, it must be under 2 hours. Or 2 hours is the limit.
I would have loved to see more violent version of this film.
Yeah, literally, I was quite surprised because that epic shootout at the end, I was thinking, oh my god, how did they come away with that without he has a few scars and nicks and all the rest of it. But yeah, for a film this is considerably less violent than the last one. Don't see hardly any blood at all. Considering this stuff, I think that's quite a miracle. But no, it's all a bit cheesy for me. I just wish they could have done it the other way around instead of shoehorning in the love triangle, the love aspect. At the very beginning of the film, you kind of hit over the head with it, really, which kind of spoiled it for me. However, conversely, compared to last week's film, I did get the chemistry between Tom Cruise and Thandie Newton's character. Definitely, I kind of felt that the chemistry was more palpable between them compared to Thandie Newton and D. Gray Scott's character. I kind of felt he's just generally a slime ball. I've got a bit of a thing for D. Gray Scott, so you have to excuse us. He's very dishy.
There's that middle class word again, folks. Dishy.
What
dishy.
Things? How dishy is he? Is he haggis dishy?
Well, I can't say because I'm vegetarian. So.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Nice.
Yeah, well,
no, but I think it's also one of those films like women kind of get a hard done by in this genre generally.
Oh, I wondered where that was going.
I was going to say something else, but I thought no.
Sorry to see him.
Took me a while to think about it. Sorry. Well, I think it's just amazing that she survives the movie. I just kind of think, because there are various really disparaging comments made about women during the course of this film, and I kind of thought, oh no, because I don't know if I saw this in cinema. I really can't remember. I don't have a memory of it. And I thought, oh god, well she's going to die, But no, she made it out towards the end. Although we don't see her next week, I don't think.
No, it's like,
no.
Yeah.
You start again.
You loved her, didn't you, sir? Like, yes, and then not seen again.
Yes, madam, no, never again, no.
It's only in that regard it's really anything like Bond, in that this film has suddenly got to have him as the lantern-jawed romantic lead as well, and that really doesn't come out in the rest of the series. Even where there is a love interest, it's not played the same way as here.
No, it's
I thought it was vaguely fucking laughable how fast they were fucking. Actually, it's like he saves her, and then suddenly it's like he's had her, and it's like blimey.
Wow.
Well done. When
you
they
don't
met...
waste any time.
when they met each other, it was hilarious as well, because they met at that dance and they like superimposed the edge of the dancers over the side of the frames.
Oh, that was really bad.
And moved it really slowly while they glared at each other in slow motion, and the score went into like a heartbeat, and it was like, oh, fuck off.
With the Spanish guitar setting. Boom, boom.
So much of this film felt like an advert, but I don't know what for. In that they often talk about commercial, TV commercial sensibilities or music video sensibilities in directors, and it's a bit of a cliche actually, because music videos take a certain skill, and they're nothing like making a feature film anyway. If Michael Bay literally made films as though they were music videos, they'd make even less sense. Do you know what I mean? And but they'd probably be a bit more inventive in a strange kind of way. It's a bit of a cliche and it's kind of meaningless. But several times during this film, I was thinking that could play as an advert for something. After she goes back to Doug Ray Scott, he walks in front of a fire, and I was thinking, yeah, this could be an advert for a liqueur.
You turn around and go,
no,
buy this product.
This could be an advert for a liqueur. Something a bit late night and spicy,
Drink X whiskey.
Tia Maria, right? When they met each other, I thought it was, Black Magic or fucking, it wouldn't be Quality Street. There's no hint of romance in that. Milk Tray.
Yeah? I was just going to say that.
Milk Tray,
right? Yeah. So, Quality Street wouldn't work, would it? That's more of a Christmas thing. There's loads of that in this film. But two things that bothered me. Chris hit on both of them. One of them was the action. I don't consider it my thing. I like genre cinema and I like action films, so perhaps it is my thing. But I certainly moan about it more than either of you two do. So I've clearly got like a very specific, almost standard for what it is I'm expecting to see.
You know what you like.
I don't know if I do, but I certainly know what I don't like, which is 90% of it. The action in this film, I kept thinking of Taken 3. And it's funny because Chris said I'd like to see a harder cut of this film, and I'm thinking, actually, it's almost like Taken 3, where they've made it as a harder cut and then cut some shit out of it, and it completely ruins the flow of it. And I finally get what Miss Chris means by saying it's like a musical. It's actually more like a dance film, if you like a Fred Astaire film or something like that.
Okay,
in that, it's got a rhythm to it. And this film is edited such that it loses its rhythm entirely. I mean, even outside of action scenes, he throws down... I had to watch this twice to fucking figure it out. Anthony Hopkins throws down a camera and says, well, if you're unsure about this, take a look at that. And you think, what was on there then? Because obviously he's got to get the real thing from Doug Ray Scott. Is that photos of, like, him with Nyah? Is that, you know what I mean? What is it?
It's he said like it's when like if you're having problems like trying to convince her, show him this, and it's like, and you're seeing the next scene, she's looking through photos of the plane crash. So she's like saying, look at what he did.
Well, in that case, that's my error then, because I failed to like understand.
Well, but maybe the film probably didn't do a job where it's edited to.
Well, particularly it's like the whole film is cut as though she's got to be put back into a sexual situation with him, and then you throw down a camera and it's like, what's that photos to blackmail her with? Anyway, but in the action scene, certainly the camera sort of moves away from gunshots where you think the actual rhythm of that shot's been ruined. Right near the end of the film where they go in and shoot like the night watchman, the guy on the desk, the camera's in the wrong place because they don't want to show any blood and stuff like that. The action, every time the action gets to like, it's, using a sex metaphor, every time they get to the fucking cum shot, everything slows down ridiculously. It is totally like, here we go, here's the money shot, and then it slows down, it takes all rhythm out of it, takes all like stakes out of it, and bizarrely at the end they keep cutting away to shots of the fucking ocean. We're looking at waves. So all I could think of was the 1970s pole dark. I was thinking like that the opening credits like had that in it, and I just thought, you've just reminded me of during a tense action scene, you've just reminded me of a mid-70s BBC costume drama. That's not a good thing, right? Again, there were action sequences that were almost self-parodying. The kind of like, the waking up with the gun at the end, and I just think like he's going to throw the bullet at him. So the action's dreadful. We'll talk through it scene to scene. It's ruined. It's very signature. I recognise it as that director, even though I've not seen a lot of that director. In the same way I can spot Michael Bay, but that's not always a good thing. At times, the action sequence feels like they're directed by somebody with real natural talent who's never done it before. In that they've won a prize to direct a film. Because they're starting off quite nicely. You think, oh yeah, you've got a fair idea where you want the camera and how you want the actors oriented to each other. And it's like, oh fuck, you've just slowed it down there. And oh shit, that stunt looks fucking ropey. And then it's like, oh, and now you've cut away to the ocean. All right, okay. On the music, all the way through, I kept thinking, no, this isn't right. But the phrase elevator music kept coming to me. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, why am I thinking elevator music? A, it's not a real thing, in that when you get into an elevator or a lift, that music's not usually playing anyway. It's what the culture has put in our head as an idea of what elevator type music is. You could also say music, the sort of thing that plays on a phone when you're waiting for to get through to customer services or whatever. And I'm thinking, none of those have shredding guitar. So why am I thinking elevator? I've never got into an elevator in my life that's been playing shredding guitar. And I think what it is whenever you hear music or elevator music as you would conceive it in your head, it just feels like random noodling. It's not really a song. Doesn't really have a start or an end. It's just there to make some sounds. And that's what I felt this score was like. And then I was trying to place it specifically in something I'd seen. And all I could come up with was the Red Dwarf episode, Back to Reality.
Oh, God.
Because in the episode Back to Reality, they find out in the TV show Red Dwarf that they've been in virtual reality for a few years. And the events of the first 5 series we've seen weren't real. They were in a game. And as they're walking out, they've given back their street clothes and all the rest of it. As they're walking out, one of the characters looks into a little viewfinder where they can see the people currently playing the game. And it's all shredding guitar. And Kachansky, shut up! And that's deliberately a bad American accent in that, they
That's what they sound like. That is what they sound like.
They sound like in the show.
Yeah.
And I just thought, yeah, so I've sat here, watched a load of action sequence. I've thought of Taken 3, which is incompetently edited, partly because they're trying to cut frames out to get a certain rating, so people die by sitting down, whereas in the 18 cut, they were impaled on something. I've thought of a BBC costume drama from the mid-70s. I've thought of elevator music and an early 90s edition of a sitcom. This film's not very good.
It doesn't do it any favours.
No, this film's not very good. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, in that the setup's kind of all right. I've got to keep ignoring the shitty direction. It's a bit, or the style of direction I'm not enjoying. I think it's a bit unfair to call John Woo shitty, to be honest. But certainly, I'm not enjoying that style, right?
It's got a legend in terms of action cinema, but it's like Tarantino. He's very hyper stylized.
Yeah, it's a bit bombastic, and it's and if you're not getting on board with it, you'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, I can get it.
But I misspoke when I said shitty, because I'm insulting and I'll have the end result's kind of shitty, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I'm with it for a while. It's a little bit slow. It gets going eventually. I think the action is genuinely hilarious. I think the cinematography and editing choices are genuinely hilarious. I think the score is genuinely the worst thing I've ever heard from Hans Zimmer. And again, there might be people like Charlie who likes this film. He was talking about it before we came on. Who can point to a ton of stuff Hans Zimmer's done that's worse. But I've never had a score that has stuck out to me as what the fuck is this? And I've looked and gone, oh, it's Hans Zimmer. Yeah, you know what I mean. Whereas he doesn't normally stand out that strongly. I recognise his style, and that's very like Hans Zimmer. And then you sometimes find it is him. But that's my opening thoughts, really. I really wanted to just almost focus on some of the things Chris had focused on, because it really did make me think of things that I'd noticed while I was watching it.
Yeah, it kind of takes you to unexpected places, but not those kind of unexpected places. It's a bit ropey.
Yeah.
And just
I'm kind of looking forward to, in terms of the score, I'm looking forward to next week a bit better as well, because we've got...
Giacchino.
Yes, so I'm expecting great
Which
things.
I blanked on when we did the first episode, but almost as soon as we hung up, I thought, oh, it's JJ. It'll be Michael
Yeah, good old JJ.
Yeah, it'll be
Anyway, yeah, sorry to cut you off there.
No, you didn't. I was done. I really just... I think that's as far as I can go, really. I think it's time to discuss this film sequentially.
So, where do we start? We start with, typical, action movie score. Dun, 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 dun. We see, Boris the sneaky fucking Russian. That's for...
Any relation to Boris the Spider?
No, that's reference to Snatch.
I forgot he was in that. Yes, yeah, he's in Snatch as well. Yes, Boris.
He's talking about making a virus in order to make a hero. You have to create a villain, whatever, and he injects the virus into him, and then he gets on a plane and he's with Tom Cruise supposedly.
He's got to do it within 20 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, that is communicated to us quickly and efficiently. But we don't find out till a bit later in the film that the people he's about to commune with don't actually quite know that. So that it's within him and stuff like that. They think he's like carrying it with him. He gets on a plane and ostensibly sits next to Tom Cruise, who he refers to as Dmitri.
Is Dmitri like Russian for friend or something?
Dimitri's a name, so I'm presuming that's he thinks he's meeting Tom Cruise, an IMF agent, and that man is called Dmitri, and Dmitri has helped him in the past, is referenced. So I'm presuming in some previous cover they came across each other's paths, and the IMF have gone to send him in. But of course Tom Cruise is on vacation, which is hilarious. Just the whole plot of the film comes into being because Ethan Hunt is on holiday. That's it.
I thought it was really weird, like the language of it all, kind of how at the beginning is like, White is on holiday, but then at the end of the film he's on vacation. I know that's really stupid, that's really petty, but I just kind of found that a bit weird. I was like, oh.
To any North Americans listening, we do not use the term vacation in this country, even though we completely understand it.
Yeah, we know what it means, but we tend to use holiday.
Yeah.
So for me to hear American use like a British term, I mean, I'm used to it the other way around, but this time it's a little bit like, oh, would you not say vacation? But, oh well, I just think it was interesting, that's all.
But anyway, I'd misremembered this film, because I'd only seen it once, and I think I conflated different entries in that I thought Anthony Hopkins went rogue in this, but of course he doesn't. It's a cameo, basically. 2 scenes. That's about it.
Yeah, it's really random. I was doing the cast list, and I was like, oh, Anthony Hopkins is in this film.
No, I'd remembered he was in it, but I thought he went bad as well, but obviously not. So basically it's a staged plane crash, basically, isn't it? Or not a staged plane crash, it's an actual plane crash, but it's engineered by Dougray Scott's Sean Ambrose, who we don't know at this stage he's an IMF agent.
No.
He's just pretending to, although he's got appropriated some of the stuff in that he's got he's got a Tom Cruise mask on. Which I've got a point about masks later, but anyway.
I love how there's a lot of quite revealing moments in this. It seemed like when he pulls off a mask and Woodrow goes, quite revealing.
To be honest, he might as well have just left the mask off. There was absolutely no fucking reason to go, ha ha! But then
next week we've got epic face-off. Obviously, John Moody also directed face-off. But yeah, a bit of epic face-off in next week's film. So.
We do.
One of the things that struck me, and again, this is down to the violence. It's just that, he breaks his neck, and it's that thing that sometimes when movies do when they try and turn it down by having it completely silent. And it just feels like, have you actually done anything there? Have you just sort of like, just rubbed him a little bit with
You've just done a bit of amateur osteopathy. They're like, thanks. Didn't even hear a click.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He always makes like, if you're going to tell us you just broken his neck, then at least have the fucking crunch sound.
I noticed that, and I thought it was the first sign that we might have the wrong director for this material. Just in that, like, I immediately thought they've had to pull a punch there. Not literally, but let's see how we go. But the very first scene, they've had to like pull back very slightly from what feels natural for this director. Whereas there are a lot of action directors out there who are used to working in and around the PG-13 rating, so they would naturally design it right for that. But I'm nitpicking, really. It's just a sequence where we're revealing the Sean Ambrose character. He's working with other people. He's hijacked the plane of basically... They gas everybody on the plane and knock them out, including the other pilots, because Richard Roxburgh's Hugh Stamp is flying the plane. And they are basically there to steal this virus from the guy from Taken 2, funnily enough.
Oh, yeah.
And other things. Reddy Shabra. He was in Batman Begins as well. Nice coat. That was it.
And also the remake of The Saint, the Val Kilmer movie, I think.
I've only ever seen that once. Fucking hated it. Yeah, so... that leads us. Does that lead us? No, it doesn't lead us into credits. We go straight to. Now I get confused. Is there a graphic that tells us where Ethan is? Because he's rock climbing. He's free climbing.
Yeah, like at the bottom of the screen, it kind of tells you.
What does it say?
Oh, you know,
the reason I say
Utah.
this is they shot it in Utah, but I thought it was based in Australia, and they were sorry. It was meant to be Utah, but they shot it in Australia. That's what I thought. And I think that might actually be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where Chris's phrase about it being a midlife crisis film comes into play.
It's a little bit like that.
I mean, look, it is impressive the stunt work off the climbing. Like you do look and think, fucking hell. And you also think that's just unnecessarily insane. Why would you be like, why?
Yeah. He did this for real. Obviously, from here on in, they're painting out wires and harnesses and stuff like that. But he did all of this, I think, except literally one shot. So, yeah, it's very impressive. But I just think, why don't you just fucking whip your knob out if it's long, and just go, look, I'm quite an impressive guy? Because that's all this scene is. It's a bit of fucking willy waving at the start of the film. I don't get the point, and it goes on for too long. But the whole point is he's somewhere remote and he's got to get his mission.
And he's I just got to climb a mountain, man.
Yeah, because it's there is that famous thing. So it's a pair of sunglasses. He puts them on and he is briefed about the stealing of Chimera. And that's it. I don't think Sean Ambrose isn't mentioned at this stage.
No, not at the moment.
That's later at the safe house.
He's basically told that he has to sort of meet. You'll be signed. You'll have like two agents of your choosing, except for this one.
The third must be Nyah,
which you need to. Yeah.
Yeah, one of this must be Civilian Thief.
I love how the mission is always like the same amount of people. Like you have the female love interest.
There could be exactly 4 of you.
You have Vic Raines on a laptop.
Yes.
You have Vic Raines on a laptop and someone who can fly a helicopter. That's your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
You can just imagine them getting the mission and it's basically Ocean's 11 and they get there and they're like, we're totally fucking outclassed here. 4? Are you kidding? Yeah. Yeah, a lot of this was in the trailers, and the shot of him climbing. I think there was also the shot of him throwing the glasses towards the camera, effectively as they self-destruct. And already I've got a problem because I like distinctive directing in that I like a visual style where I can go, that is quintessentially that person's work. But where you start seeing directorial ticks like random slowing downs and all that shit pisses me off. So I'm already going into the credits going, oh, fuck. And I don't like the rendition of the Mission Impossible theme here either. We've got it on the start of this show, obviously, if it gets through all the places we've got to put it. It's my least favourite. They do have a different orchestration every time. They vary. And this is just the one that I go... This and 4 are the 2 where I go, don't like this.
This one really dates it as well. I mean, I kind of said like last time that was like the most 90s action movie. I think this is probably, if not one of, there's lots of other action movies came out in the noughties, I'm guessing, in the early 2000 onwards. This is like a very noughties action movie, and it's a very John Woo action movie too. But yeah, the score really does date it here, which is my opinion.
Oh, definitely. It stands out a mile. I don't like the Ghost Protocol credit sequence either. I love the way it goes into the titles, and we'll talk about that when we do Ghost Protocol. But they go into the theme, and then it just kind of noodles about a bit.
Yeah,
Which
I'm not.
it's like,
a fan
come
of
on,
that
put
one.
some fucking balls behind it. That's why I really like the Fallout one, because
Yeah.
it's just played with so much.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I
That's a good
really
one.
like Rogue Nation as well. I think Rogue Nation is probably my favourite. Is
Yeah, those two. Those
Yeah.
two really
I
stand
think
out.
where they don't mess about with the score, or they do it in kind of like a very stylish but understated way, and let the score kind of breathe and be to its own. Because Lady Schifrin created
Forced you
numerous classic scores.
Yeah.
Dirty Harry is also another one that I love of his. But it's just one of those things. I think that the less they mess around with it, the better it is. So, if that makes sense, and that's really stupid, but if they just let a theme kind of exist in its own right, or kind of treat it with reverence and respect, rather than being all tutty and noodling around with it, as you say, then yeah, the better it is, really. So, anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
that's my 2 cents.
It's funny, in the midst of this, I've just looked at Tom Cruise's filmography, because basically I wanted to hit on Ghost Protocol, see who did the music, and funny enough, that's Giacchino as well. But I'm looking at the
that'd
list,
be
right,
why.
and it's got the last few... Well, no, because his Mission Impossible 3 is the one's all right, and I'm not even talking about the overall score, I'm just talking about the title music. I really, really don't like the Ghost Protocol one, because I just feel like put some fucking effort into it. It just feels like... It's like, get on with it.
Hurry
It's just shit. But looking at his filmography, after Fallout, his next film is listed as Joseph Kosinski directing, which we know is correct for Top Gun Maverick,
Yeah.
but it's listed it as Green Lantern with him playing
Danger
Hal
Zone.
Jordan. That's just mischief making on Wikipedia, that is.
Yes.
He is not down to play Green Lantern. I know it's been talked
No,
about.
mischief
but nothing's
managed.
agreed. And he's going to do at least a couple of films in between that, but anyway.
Danger Zone. Yeah, can't wait.
Fucking hated the first one, though.
It's going to be fun.
Genuinely fucking hated it. Genuinely wanted to fucking throttle Tony Scott right afterwards.
you're your biggest fan.
It was the first film where I thought, I don't like this guy. And ever since, I've hated Tony Scott's work. And it started with Top Gun. I think it's fucking shit. Anyway, I think I've just unbearable. Gotta give it it might as well just be fucking, like, they might as well have just fucked and got it over
Might as well
with.
just kiss to get over with it.
Yeah. Anyway, that wasn't really a problem. I don't give a shit if it's homoerotic as hell, but it's just this American best of the best of the best bollocks. It gets on my tits.
Yeah, it's all a bit jingoistic as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it
guess.
just gets on my tits, and the plot's just totally who cares anyway. I'm happy. I'm hopeful the sequel might be better because it's not Tony Scott, and like Tom Cruise is older. They've had years to think about it. They're putting some interesting cast members in. It might be less fucking rah rah rah.
They might become best buddies this time. You never know.
I'm not. I wasn't. Dead.
Yeah, given Hollywood at the moment, I doubt it will be kind of like America's Ace. I think that kind of...
I haven't watched. I've only ever seen the first one like once or twice. I think the people I watched it with weren't really digging it either, and that kind of. I think I might have been a little bit influenced. That's not to say I'll watch it again and think it's a great film, but it does mean that like I'll watch it early next year in prep for that film, and I expect to have a better time than I did with it the first time. But it ain't my thing. Or, you know, wanking off about your military capabilities ain't my thing. But so we come out of the credits, and where do we go from there?
We go straight to when he meets, Tandy Newton, or Nalia, she's called.
I laughed my fucking ass off at this, right? I'd have been disruptive in the cinema because I think I'd have laughed out loud there as well. When he sees her, and then suddenly it becomes, over ice, after dark, Tia Maria.
You're breathtaking.
Everything slows down, and they just look at each other, and they take.
Oh, the slow mo in this film is terrible.
Are we supposed to think they've instantly fallen in love? Fuck off.
Dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, no, they fall in love while having like a major car incident on the.
I know, we'll get to that in a minute as well.
That car chase, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, GoldenEye's all over that.
Just lean into it and put it into the dialogue. I mean, she's nearly just died. You've pulled her up onto your lap. Just say,
Hello.
Christ, that these shenanigans have given me quite the stiffy. Right?
That's pretty much what he says.
He doesn't say anything, actually, but they're immediately like, they're going to fuck.
Well, that's pretty much
as
like.
well, 'cause their faces were really, really close together. But she's like some kind of cat burglar or something, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a thief. or
Yeah.
she's trying to like rob these these like sort of diamonds that this bracelet is that's sorry, this necklace that's like meant to be like £500,000. So she's trying to steal that, and then he interrupts that, and then sort of sets off the alarm. But at this point, we don't realise it's him who actually sets it off, and then plays off that he's like head of security or some sort, and that he's like, and then she's like working with him.
Yeah, she's like, "Do you mind if I go on top?" And it's like, okay.
It's like raise an eyebrow, Roger Moore.
Don't have a problem with women being on top.
Yeah, it's just like no need for any of that. Having said that, there's quite a bit of cleavage showing as she rolls on top, and I'm thinking, this is actually like, this is getting a bit racy.
I don't know. I don't know what certificate this would have been when it came out. Would it have been 12 or 15?
It would have been a 12A. With that, not the 12A wouldn't have existed. It would have been
I'd say like a 12.
PG-13, yeah. So it would have been. That's the market it would have gone from. And looking at, if it was the highest grossing film of the year, it won't have been
12. Yeah, or PG at the very lowest, or 12.
Oh, it won't be a PG either. I wouldn't have thought.
Too many boobs.
Well, not really. You don't see any boobs. There's a bit of cleavage. Hang on a second. Let me just look. Mission Impossible 2. I'm going to look it up.
Mission difficult.
Hey, it looks like it may have been a 15 here.
Really?
Which makes I mean, was thinking, was it a 15 or was it a 12?
Because all the gunplay.
But that makes it really more annoying to think you could have got a fucking harder film.
Fucking lean into it a bit. MPAA ratings. I'm going to just see what it is in the US. Film ratings, MPMA. I wonder if I can find it on there. Keep talking, guys. I'll find it. But yeah, sorry. So, he meets with her, rescues her from that, and then she basically gives him the slip, doesn't she? To start with.
No.
Or she thinks she has.
No, he thinks. Well, it's shot like he's like wakes up, and goes, "Oh no!"
Yeah, they go
in the kind of like
shag.
She's gone, and it turns out she's still there, and he just can't believe it because he's that much in love.
I know, it's like, I've still got her. You loved her.
It's like, oh no, I'm in trouble now. You know.
Oh dear. The thing is, as well, I really thought we were going to see them actually shag and her like cut fruit up with a knife. This doesn't feel like Bond, but I'm still getting the Die Another Day vibes at this stage. It's like, they're instantly really into each other, just like Bond and Jinx, even.
It's like what they should have done though is they should have just on that car bit, they should have just simply established like a kind of thing, not just go straight for the sex, just kind of like we had a little bit of a moment there, and then they get back. He meets Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins reveals the fact that we don't really want her for her cat burglar abilities. We want to use her to get to Ambrose, and they even up. We go like, well, that's a kind of bit immoral and a bit shitty. I don't quite kind of approve of that, So they should have just gone with that, really. And he's kind of put in an awkward situation of going like, "Well, I don't really approve of this," but
Mission Impossible 2. Sorry to interrupt. Mission Impossible 2 was a PG-13. Normally, it lines up with the 12 rating, but not always. And every now and again, it will go the other way as well. Like we've said this before, but the longer cut of Batman v Superman was like R-rated, and it was still a 12-year. There was like it was sold as like the harder cut, and it like over here we still went 12A. So it doesn't always match up. But it was a 15 here and a PG-13.
It's weird, isn't it? You think this is totally not.
Which is why they didn't go for it, Chris. Our censors saw something in it that they gave it the harder rating, but they weren't chasing an adult cut.
It'd be something as stupid like as if like the bad guy hitting Tom Cruise in the face with a rock. It would have been that.
Yeah, it'll be something. So she's still there. Hooray! Then what?
And then he goes to meet Anthony. Hey, Hopkins.
Yeah, Anthony comes and he's like, hey. This is actually.
Oh dear.
Yeah, then you have like, this is not Mission Difficult. This is Mission Impossible. Difficult. We walk in a park for you.
Actually, the one line that stuck out here, Becca said there was some like misogynistic lines in it. The only one I noticed because I wasn't looking for it was here.
Or
Where-
like,
There's
you know,
another one at the end where he goes, "Oh, women." Well, not was it? Was a few. There's a few
Go
little throughout the film.
to go to bed with a man and lie to him. She got
Yeah.
no training. Mean she's a woman.
Yeah, in other words, women are dodgy. Is what he's just said.
I know, but
There's
you know,
the one
but
at
you
the
know
end
what?
where it's like, "Oh, women are like monkeys," and it's like, "Oh, bloody hell, really?"
It's along the same lines of like saying like, yeah, the guys just want sex and they just sleep with any fucker. You know, it's the same sort
it's
of
the same thing as
stereotypical
backhanded.
trope that you just sort of flippantly
I
say.
think what he's saying is she doesn't actually. What they're trying to say, and it's badly written.
Yeah,
is
it really is.
Actually, you're saying she's not trained for this. All she's actually got to do is sleep with someone. She's female with female organs. She can go and do that. She doesn't need any specific training. But it did come out as like, well, she can behave like a typical woman, which is to do this. I think there's a disconnect between
I think there's probably like should we say what's the term, provocative element.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit tempting to be provocative rather than like
yeah.
it's to make people, it's to make, you know, it's Robert Town, you know, trying to go like, oh, I'm edgy and like I'm gonna make people think.
Mind you, after Chinatown, it's like this isn't going to be that edgy, given one of the major plot points in, you know, Chinatown is, you know, someone's the mother-daughter sister thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Chinatown's a great film though.
Yeah, such a good film.
Yeah, it looks beautiful as well. That's the main thing. It just looks phenomenal. You know, just that sort of LA noir aesthetic.
We should do like sort of classic, like or noir films. I reckon that'd be really good fun.
We can do it.
Anyway.
Just obviously like suggest what it is rather than just on air randomly going noir. And it's like, okay, yeah, but what?
All the westerns.
All the way, exactly. That's how we ended up committing to every western ever made.
Ever.
Yeah. He tells him here that he said, well, how did you get this guy on the plane then? And he said, well, you were there, effectively. And we get a little patronising graphic to show us Ambrose turning into Hunt, even though we saw him pull the mask off earlier. This really is for the fucking slow lane.
Really
You know what I
is.
mean? This is the special needs group fucking cut of the film. Yeah, and he's just basically said...
This is what I mean. Like literally every 5-10 minutes, they are hit over the head with a hammer about the dialogue, about the plot. This is what's happening. Bang! It's like, oh god, really?
See, look, Ethan's face going on top of his, and then if you're worrying about the hair,
Never.
look, the hair adjusts as well. It's like we saw this in the first fucking scene. But yeah, it's the gist is Nyah has been chosen because she's Ambrose's ex-girlfriend. You need to get her back in with Ambrose so we can find out what's going on.
Also, does it strike you the fact that Ambrose has literally just turned? Because it always struck me the fact that he's been doing this shit for quite a while. So like, why is like they've gone like, I know, we'll just go to go to this really dodgy guy just because we can't get hold of Ethan Hunt. We'll just get this really dodgy guy to play Ethan Hunt and hope that nothing goes wrong.
Well, he's part of the team. They don't have concerns, but Ethan goes, we had reservations. What did you think of him? Well, reservations. I think he says reservations about each other, actually. But Ethan had reservations. So that's the film. That's the throwaway.
Noticeably because he's willing to kill people. Or he likes to sort of have bodies on the ground, which obviously Ethan doesn't tend to want to do.
It's just the fact that the film can't explain to us efficiently why they would put their faith in quite a dodgy guy, but we don't also want to be thinking that IMF had absolutely no idea. It undermines Ethan. So we have Ethan just throw away a remark that I wasn't sure about him, to be fair. That was the gist.
Yeah.
And that's it.
We never saw eye to eye.
That's right. And then he says, send Nyah in there because women are dodgy. And then they basically staged Nyah's arrest and incarceration, don't they?
Yeah.
Guessing that Ambrose will be watching every line of digital information anywhere and will know about it. So he goes and basically gets her out.
Yeah. And we basically just have a montage. We see Nyah arrive to meet Ambrose, and we have that really sort of slow mo shot where scarf kind of like throws off.
I
the
know
wind.
it goes slow mo for no reason. It keeps going slow mo. It's like Paul W.S. Anderson.
I mean,
slow mo.
I remember at the time watching it in the cinema, and that bit where the scarf blows off and he catches it. I thought, oh, that's so John Woo. That's totally like him. What sort of thing he'd do? And you have
You could knock 20 minutes off the running time if you knocked all that shit off, though.
Yeah, true. And you have Ethan Hunt getting his team together.
They're awesome. There was just one shot that looked inadvertently a bit like, that looks a bit dodgy. She goes inside with him, and he says something about my bedroom, and she says our room, or something like that, or it's the other way round. Maybe she says your room, and he goes our room, or whatever. And like Richard Roxburgh's right there, and I'm thinking, is he going to fucking watch? What's going on there then? But yeah, the implication is she's going to immediately start sleeping with him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the film being adult. We're all grown-ups here.
Where do you go here?
Right, yeah, they've got this. Do we get the backstory for McCloy next? To Brendan Gleeson, because the whole point now is that he's gonna meet him at a horse. Oh no, I think it's a little bit later. They're gonna go to a horse race, or a horse racing event. You don't go to see one race, do you? The whole card of them.
They established that they've got like sort of this digital information on this disc card, like this micro card thing.
Yeah, and she's required to get it off him.
Yes,
and it's basically how the virus works. It's how the virus works. Now, the film actually sells it almost as just like a little graphic of how it intercepts, but I imagine there's more information on it than that. And he's going to meet with the head of this company, Biosite, who seem to be developing like antidotes to Chimera.
Yeah,
I've mentioned it's called Chimera so far. This virus is called Chimera. And it basically activates after like a 20-hour dormant period in your blood.
Yeah, and so she's tasked with trying to sneak steal the. So she is there to be a thief as well. She does sort of take the camera off him and then deliver it to Tom Cruise to make a copy and then put it back, essentially.
Yeah, and they try and play up all the tension here, but it's neither here nor there really. It's not that well done, but the whole point is Brendan Gleeson is now involved, and there's a bit of a fallout thing, isn't it? The faker scenario for this guy.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah, so she sneaks it back in his pocket and
she puts it in the wrong pocket as well, and that's the bit I'm not quite sure about.
He kind of noticed it. There's like slow mo his face. He kind of like, oh yeah. So and then just plays off like that he hasn't.
Yeah.
So Tom Cruise and co spot Brendan Gleeson, so they do the Mission Impossible thing where they set up, they do like a fake scenario to get information from Brendan Gleeson.
That's right. He gets into like his chauffeur-driven car, and it's immediately locked in. The guy won't answer him, and then he's gassed.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up in what appears to be quarantine. Like a hospital bed, but it's completely quarantined, and he's told he's been infected with Chimera. And
and it's Boris the sneaky fucking Russian who's supposed to be dead.
Yes,
that's right. And we do show he's not called Boris.
No,
is he?
No. I just keep referring to him as
We'll name him as Boris.
He shows him what this does. It basically, I don't know.
Yeah.
Turns you slowly into a polar bear or something. Slowly get icy.
Yeah.
So you get very granulated, well not granulated, pixelated.
You get a little bit bloody, a little bit.
It looks pretty bad. The very last photo looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And like 32 hours or something like that? It looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
Who's that Russian spy that was poisoned years ago?
Oh.
I know who you mean. It happened.
Yeah. Not Novel Target Soldier, but further back. It looks a little bit like that. Oh my god.
That was with polonium.
Yeah,
I mean, I think this virus just sort of like just breaks down your blood cells, doesn't it? By the animation,
you end up bleeding out.
We do get like a little graphic of it, and it turns out this guy's only really interested in money. He needs to see the virus because he needs to see what they're dealing with.
And
his whole point is to produce to get the virus to actually work out.
And meanwhile, we see Tom Cruise again meet up with Nala, who just sort of like, oh, you're supposed to, are you getting me out of here, and blah blah, and it turns out to be Sean Bloody Ambrose.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, she's going back to the house. He meets
Yeah.
her outside, and it's like Tom Cruise is staking the place out, Ethan.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's Sean Ambrose, and it's like Sean Ambrose has decided he wants to do a For Your Consideration reel.
Well, because he has that pain face of like,
The pain, he goes
you broke
really
my heart.
He goes melodramatic, heartbroken afterwards, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But doesn't say a lot because he's a stoic man. It's really funny.
It's like, well done, Stamper. Oh, sorry, I keep going to say Stamper. But he says Stamp. Well done, you. Well done.
So now they know.
So now they know, and then
The other thing is from McFloyd, they wanted samples of the antidote, and of course he doesn't have them. They were all taken by the now dead guy. So we've got one of the sort of signatures. We need to break in somewhere and steal something.
Yeah, which is like basically probably the main part of the mission.
Reminded me a little bit of Mission Impossible 3, that largely
Yeah.
because it's at night. So that whole fulcrum scene and stuff like that.
Yeah, and jumping through an air vent on a bunch. Yeah, which is pretty good. You have the whole setup where
they have to retract.
Yeah.
They have to retract. All their equipment quickly, and they only just do it and stuff like that. It's all right. It's all right. But again, they're trying to play on this dark side of the hero kind of thing, because Doug Ray Scott is saying, well, he won't come in through the door. He doesn't want confrontation. He doesn't want to hurt anyone, so he's going to go through the roof. Yeah. Then you cut to Ethan. I keep doing that. Ethan saying, well, so we need to go in through the roof. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's some degree of anticipation of what Ethan and the team are going to do.
Yeah, because he's basically, they're trying to paint Sean Ambrose as like the evil Ethan Hunt, essentially.
Yeah. Well, he's even got similar colouring, hasn't he?
Yeah, and there's like kind of like, I'm willing to kill people, and that's probably the key differences, really. So he's like, well, I'll just go through the front door and just kill the guards. Don't care.
They should have cast Sean Bean or something. For America, Ethan!
Closing time, Ethan.
That'd be a point.
Anyway, so so Ethan gets nearly the mission completed.
Yeah, he basically gets dropped into a John Woo action sequence.
Yeah, I mean it does that stupid thing where he starts getting reminiscent on the last one for no reason whatsoever.
Gets what? Sorry?
He gets reminiscent. He starts thinking about lost it, getting thinking about his old scientist friend who probably did. What last time he was here, and it's just kill the fucking virus, Ethan.
He's imagining him working in there.
Yeah.
Well, you never saw him work there.
It's like this is where he injected himself with the Cambia virus, and it's like just fucking kill the virus and get it done. Yeah,
when you think at a similar point in the previous film, he was sat with John Voight, literally working loads of stuff out here, and here he's literally just imagining how something must have looked. It's that's the IQ of the two films in a fucking nutshell.
And then and then the bad guys show up, and there's just a big shootout.
Yeah, which is where I started struggling with the film. This is where it's a little bit better this time, in that I didn't really struggle with it at all till right near the end, where the action sequence literally got self-parodying. But at this point, I remember this is where I was checking out last time, and I was imagining a lot more of the sort of diving with the double guns than is actually in the film. But there's the first sort of showdown between the two, although they're not actually literally looking at each other. Ethan's hiding from gunfire and shooting people who are sort of trying to come round the side, sort of surreptitiously. But they're explaining to it, and Ambrose reveals he knows Nyah's a plant, and also calls her out. Yeah,
and then basically he goes to sort of gets her to fetch it,
Yeah.
And then she does think by injecting it into her.
Yeah, well, you can't kill her then.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Can't pass it to her and be shot. But now she's got the virus in it. Ethan immediately goes to his watch and sets some sort of timer. Yeah, she's now got 20 hours.
This is after she sort of tells him to kill her, because then like, look, just get it done. Kill
she
me.
says this. She sort of says this afterwards. She injects it, and then it's like, you can't get us both out of here. Just kill me. I'm infected. And what he actually does is blow out the side of a wall. Another thing that's Die Another Day style. Like the genetic therapy clinic. And yeah, he just basically says, just stay alive. In other words, we've got 20 hours to figure something out, and I can get out.
Yeah. I'll get it in you. Yeah.
Why they couldn't have run together, I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, I found that really silly. I was just like, why?
There's a big
because
open
plot
side
reasons.
of the wall here. Just run together.
Yeah, that makes more sense. But no.
No, it's impossible
plot.
apparently.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be a tense moment where is he going to shoot her through the heart, and he struggles like he's going to do it, and it's just like you're forcing attention that's not there. Just
it didn't really work for me.
I mean, look, my head's saying.
And the trouble is, Becca's right. There's some chemistry between the two of them, but they had 5 minutes together before she was sent off to infiltrate Sean Ambrose. So it's like, I've got to kill her, but I love her.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
5 fucking minutes.
This should be like the realize moment when they both love each other.
Yeah.
I
agree, Chris.
It's not very well done, I admit, but in structure, it's a bit like Bond in the Chair, Inspector. It's that moment where you go, right, we don't know what's going to happen next. Let's tell each other how we feel. It wasn't very well done there because they had no chemistry.
Yeah.
But structurally, and where you put it in the film, it's here.
Yeah, and also the realization of like, I thought you didn't have a conscience, and this kind of thing where like
I guess I lied.
Yeah, and she steps up. Like also, it's like shit. She's actually quite heroic in a way, and
invested.
Yeah.
And invested. She's telling Ethan he can't shoot her, which must mean, Christ, I do have feelings for her. I don't like killing, but you've seen me kill people in this film, so there's no reason I couldn't kill her. And she has actually done the right things, which tells him she must have been feeling something for me.
Yeah.
But of course, we had them shag fucking 45 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there you go.
So so we've just become better writers than Robert Town. How's that feel?
What they were supposed to, they had to do something between them before they sent her off to Ambrose. But because they sent her straight off to Ambrose, they needed it, so it was tough for Ethan, if you like, and also because she's now in a relationship in inverted commas with the leading man, we're supposed to care a bit more. So I can see why they did something before she went.
Yeah.
But if they do that and send her immediately, and then they suddenly have this amazing chemistry or love for each other when they had one night together and were immediately parted, that's nonsense. It doesn't work.
But yeah, so and then we just basically get Ambrose decides to release her on the street, to release the virus, even though Ethan basically sort of assumes correctly that, well, she'll just kill herself, so don't have to worry about that. We just got to worry about getting the virus to her, so she doesn't have to kill herself.
Well, yeah. Not only that, if you put her absolutely fucking nowhere near like the bad guys, I can just find her and pick her up. Hopefully, we're tracking her. They're tracking the calls.
Yeah. So
that makes no sense. There's no need for the final action sequence of this film if they've been a bit more on the ball. But she's released. The idea is they're going to release her. She'll go from dormant to active. The virus. There'll be a massive outbreak in Sydney, and the stock of the company will go through the roof. And that's what is revealed. Ambrose wants. He wants stock of McCloy's, Brendan Gleeson's company, which is at something like, it's never gone above $31 per share. And it's going to go well above 200. Basically, it'll be worth billions.
Yeah.
That's the idea. We need an outbreak to stimulate demand for the antidote. That's what it is.
And there it is. So so Tom Cruise, busts in, and
With a dove.
With a dove. I mean, to be fair, John Woo always does use pigeons and doves and all that. Yeah, like it is a motif. It's meant to symbolise, like, to him, it's like it's symbolised to the quote unquote evil that good is coming. It's that kind of thing. It's that warning of, like,
I
anyway.
know. It just made me think of the David Brent video for "If You Don't Know Me by Now."
Oh my god.
Because he released a dove at the start or during that.
Yeah, that was so cheesy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So
it's also a great music video.
It's brilliant.
But yeah, and his a not stamper stamp.
Now,
What was your box for?
right. Without breaking this down moment by moment, obviously Ethan's going in to try and get Nyah and beat the bad guys and all that fucking rest of it. And again, the dove is hilarious because the action sequences suddenly go really ADHD all the way through this. Like, whatever John Woo wants to do at a given moment, he'll suddenly introduce for no rhyme or reason. So you get juddery sequences, juddery bits of action. So the dove is slightly like, almost like this missing frames. There's like a little judder to it. So that's really weird. Is Ethan just carrying a backpack full of masks?
It's always bothered me from the first watch. I think not only just masks, but no, exactly, he's got the correct voice thing as well.
But he knows. Well, he doesn't speak as Richard Roxburgh's character. Yeah. He puts something over his mouth, so that's okay. But how did he know it was going to be Richard Roxburgh? How it was going to break down? Who exactly was going to be
he does speak as Richard Roxburgh because he comes in, but he puts a thing over his mouth, so the real stamp couldn't speak.
When the Tom Cruise mask gets pulled off, Richard Roxburgh underneath has his mouth completely covered. He can't have spoken.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
sorry. Yeah.
But the point is, how would he have carried? He's carried the two masks, so when he encounters Stamp, he can put his face on him. Yeah.
I don't know.
And also,
chance favours the prepared, I guess.
It's ridiculous. So obviously he shoots Ethan in inverted commas several times, Doug Ray Scott, and kills him, but it's Stamp. And then Stamp runs down the corridor to rip off the mask to find it's Ethan, right?
Yeah.
But the way they cut it together, they haven't accounted for the height difference, which is only about 3 inches. I did look this up, but like he runs around a corner, rips off the mask, and suddenly shrinks 3 inches between two frames. It's absolutely like that is bordering on fucking incompetent. It's just like that is just the only way you could have shot it where it would have been a problem. They have, and as we're about to launch into like some really piss poor action, or certainly the stylizing of it, I hate. The film I check out of the film around now.
Well, yeah, because you have, it's basically just action scene. I mean, you got like Big Rames getting pissed off that they punched a hole in his Versace,
Yeah, he gets very pissed off about that.
But it's like, okay, fair enough, Big Rames. I understand, like, getting a bit annoyed that, your designer shoes, getting off a helicopter because you don't quite know where quite you're going to be landing. But, you're on a combat mission. Why are you wearing your designer shit here? Like, why?
Yeah, exactly. That there is nothing
it's like
about
at the start of the film when they go to the Australian house. It's kind of like these are $800 Gucci shoes or whatever. It's like, why are you wearing them to this? The Australian outback. What's going on there?
His character does like to wear designer stuff. And I think you can see that in the first film. He's dressed pretty fly, but. Do you think so? In certain situations, why are you wearing your best fucking jacket or whatever?
Yeah.
Now I know also there's a conceit in all of these things that like, as long as you run quite quickly, bullets won't hit you. I know all that, but it's really exaggerated in this. I mean, when they're shooting straight at Ving Rhames in the helicopter, and he leans back a couple of inches to avoid it. It's just really funny, just the way this is staged. And I'm supposedly watching an action master, and I'm just going, that's fucking laughable.
Yeah.
And then the whole sequence from now on with bikes and God knows what else. It reminded me of watching I remember when I was a kid. I don't know if it was Why Don't You or something like that, but I certainly remember watching some kids' TV show where they decided to put kids on doing various sports, and BMXing was really popular when I was young.
Ah.
This looked like BMXing.
I was into BMX when I was little. That was in the mid-80s.
Yeah, but on motorbikes instead. The stunts here are like not that exciting, and just the things they've let through quality control. Like Tom Cruise fires backwards without looking, which is hilarious, but he shoots out like the little sort of the little bit of sort of plastic on the front of the bike.
Yeah, it wouldn't really happen in real life, would it?
Yeah, but even if it did, it wouldn't form such a like perfectly fucking carved out bit of. It just looks really, really false. And there's a bit where he sort of jumps over a fence on the bike, and he stays in the air too long. Like they've exaggerated this. They've used some CG to stretch that jump out, and it looks like someone's literally grabbed it and moved it along a few frames. It just looks really bad. And of course, as soon as they get off the bike and start fist fighting, it slows down in random places. It speeds up in random places. They're telegraphing when you slow it down, all you do is telegraph the choreography. Like there's a bit where Tom Cruise leans back to allow himself to be put in a headlock, and there's a bit where he does a sort of flying kick at Doug Ray Scott, and Doug Ray Scott is already falling backwards before the kick gets to him, because it was all done at like real speed and then slowed down. And I just think the film is just absolutely shit the bed, and every now and again it cuts to show us some like foamy fucking waves, and it's like, this is madness. And also, I thought the virus was either dormant or it wasn't. Why is Tandy Newton starting to look ill?
Yeah, it's like, make your mind up. Which is it?
So the third act of this film is absolute utter shit.
It's like at the end of it, basically, where it's like, oh, it turns out she didn't have the virus, and he's like, oh yeah, I figured that. I was like,
Well,
yeah,
no, he does inoculate it, doesn't he?
Well, he does, I know, but I just kind of think it's a bit just, it's like really, really badly written, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I love that. They're about to get on the helicopter, and it was like, he suddenly goes, whoa, and up with the gun off the floor. The only place that's ever worked is Casino Royale, and I honestly thought, catch the bullet and throw it back at him. Go on, be that
literally, go on, do it.
Be brave. And all the time we've got the silly fucking elevator music playing. You know, it's just didn't like this.
Yeah, he does the bad guy thing of like of go, you should have killed. Well, you could have just shot him that time. He could have like.
Yeah. Well, he could have stabbed him at one point and chooses not to. But there you go. The kicking the gun in the air and then diving is ridiculous. And it was at that point I was like, the first time I do remember thinking, there's way too much diving in this film. Like, given that character's really never done it since. But there you go. And then, so he cures her, and then they go off for some romance after he goes to see Anthony Hopkins, who's like, hey!
You're instructed to bring back the virus. Yeah, destroy it by fire. Okay, fair enough. Well, I guess you're going on vacation. I was like, I'll tell you where we're going. Well, don't bother. It will be vacation if you did.
Yeah, which is a recurring joke because he tells him off.
Yeah.
When they gives him his mission earlier on, like, tell us where you are next time. And then when he actually sees him in person, he said, no, wouldn't have expected you to tell me. In other words, I had to be seen to be saying that, but don't. And here he says don't. And they go for a little walk. Oh, then they meet up again, which is another thing where the world seems to slow around them while they have a long, lingering look at each other.
That takes some time,
they just disappear into the crowd.
Yeah. Credits.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah. I just think
I want to go and listen to some Limp Bizkit now because I'm a cool motherfucker.
That does seem like someone of a certain age, not old by any means, but someone of a certain age picking what they think will be like with it and cool and like kids will like. I just think like lean into your fucking age. To be honest with you, you'll either find an audience or not. And Mission Impossible doesn't actually track that well with very, very young men anyway. Macquarie said that in interviews. If I chase that audience, I'm onto a bit of a loser, to be honest with you. Which is why he talks about decisions in Fallout where it tracked a certain way with like men and a certain way with women, and by and large, he chose the let's actually go that way because that audience I've either got or I won't get anyway. So that's it, and it stands out wildly from the rest of the series. I mean, final thoughts. I'm not going to add very much. I'm literally going to say, for an action genius, the action in this is terrible. I don't know how much of that is the way it's edited, but the stylistic ticks just piss me off. It's just like, yes, we know you're John Woo. You don't have to keep reminding us every 2 minutes. Just pop into the corner of the shot and fucking wave if you're that desperate for us to fucking know it's you. I've never heard worse from Hans Zimmer. I just think this is just like, he's just noodling around half the time. You know, let's just play it and just shred a little bit of guitar. And it's just, it's altogether a little bit too serious for what it is. But largely because it's led by a man who, although he's done a couple of comedic things like Tropic Thunder, Tom Cruise takes his work seriously. And so this was never going to have a nodding, winking tone that might have underpinned it a little bit. Doug Ray Scott could have been in any, although this is a very naughty film, Doug Ray Scott could have been in any 90s film with a sort of Eurotrash villain. I don't know what Richard Roxburgh's doing. I'm no expert on the South African accent, but that sounded awful.
He's in a different film altogether.
But apart from...
he's in Lethal Weapon 2 territory.
He really is.
Yeah, but I actually thought I was in danger of... I seem to remember the first time I saw it, I was struggling to stay awake. I got through this all right, actually. So I don't want to exaggerate. It's the weakest film in the series from memory. By a distance, actually, it's not particularly difficult to say that. But if this is the worst thing the series ever produces, we're not in a bad place.
It's not Mission Difficult, it's Mission Impossible.
What do you think, Becca?
Yeah.
Go on, Becca, say how you feel.
Well, stick the knife in, go on, give it.
Yeah, if you had a kind of introduction to John Woo movies, you wouldn't show them this. That's all I have to say on the subject.
Well, I'd never have watched another John Woo movie. If
this is my introduction to how he makes movies, I'd be like, what the hell? But no, I think for me, in terms of yeah, as I said, I largely agree with Chris on this one. Definitely is. I can kind of see where they went wrong, and there's very much a battle between the studio and director about this one. For me, I would say I would agree with you, David. It's probably, I think from here on in the films get better. I mean, obviously they rank it various ways, but luckily from here on in, I do think the films are improved. Really looking forward to next week. But yeah, this one would kind of rank bottom of the pile for me. It's a decent action flick. Very naughties action flick, not a naughty action flick, but a naughties action flick. But yeah, just let down by a really Hans Zimmer score. I really don't get it. It's like the same with last week as well. It's like, okay, so you've got another big name doing the score, and it doesn't sound anything like you would expect from them. The same this time around. It's a real kind of flavourless score for me, I would say. And yeah, Limp Bizkit is very dated. So yeah, just a mess from beginning to end, really.
It's Limp Bizkit rocking your set, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't really disagree. This is definitely the weakest one. If you're gonna watch John Woo films, I say, watch Hard Boiled first, and then move on to The Killer.
Yeah, Hard Boiled, or
I'm gonna go and find a download of it.
Tomorrow too.
I keep promising to do this, and I keep forgetting, so I will go and find a download of one of those films now. So yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I'd probably say to Western audiences, Hard Boiled is probably the most accessible to watch, because it's probably the most westernized film anyway, and the action in it is just great.
But given I'm not general audiences in that way, which one would you say to me?
I'd say start with Hard Boiled.
Okay.
The Killer does have probably like the I won't say sort of romantic story, but it does have like a nice sort of killer with a conscience angle. And the violence is just really over the top and ballistic, but it works better in a different tongue. Do you know what I mean? So it's but
I did read somewhere that John Woo is remaking The Killer in the English language, which is interesting.
But I've heard Walter Hill's doing it a while back, but anyway. Yeah. Anyway, both have Chan Woo Fat in it as well. Before he came over to America as well. Yeah. So
I'll find one of them and watch them. But anyway, carry on, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, So this is the weakest Mission Impossible film. It's new to John Will. It's neutered John Woo, but it's probably John Woo not working at his best. Tom Cruise is great, but everything's just. I think everything's just not quite gelling, and not everything's working as well as it wants to. And I didn't hate it, and I think I kind of got on by not really disliking it by seeing what everyone else was going for and seeing the effort that people were putting in, and it's like I can kind of see, but I just something about this just does not work, and I think it suffers from being that year of a year that hasn't dated very well in terms of style and just
when you go through these films, you do see how many little micro eras there are.
Yeah.
I remember when we did Rocky, and I said Rocky 5 could only have been made like 89 to 91. Like, there are enough changes that even by the time you get to 92, some of the decisions and looks and stuff in that film don't fit at all. And 91, for example, where you've got Terminator 2, is set... I know we've had this conversation, we'll have it again later in the year, but Terminator 2 is set in 1994, actually. And when you look at it, it doesn't work. Public Enemy shirts and stuff like that. There's loads of little micro eras that you don't notice till you start going through films, and you think, that couldn't have been made even 2 years later.
No, you couldn't make it any other time. It's very much of its time, isn't it? This is one of those time capsule movies. So you want to get a flavour of what the cinema going public was up to in 2000. This is a film that's going in that box.
I did notice, the one thing I did notice is early in the film, Tom Cruise was in shit-eating grin mode. And that was common to this stage of his career. I remember in Vanilla Sky, which I think is a wildly underrated film. I know that's a term a lot of people don't like, but yeah, it just is. And when I say terms like that, I just mean according to like general consensus, general public consciousness. Well, that film is barely in public consciousness now, and when it did come out, it was considered widely as like a bit disappointing. And I just remember thinking it was a really smart, clever film, and I think it's actually better than its original. Because it's a Spanish
it's one of those
film.
few films. I think I would probably be in a little bit of agreement with you. But I think it's one of those rare films where it's better than.
Yeah, because they do make a couple of different decisions. But early in that film, David Ames, the character's called, which is always a good sign when I can remember the name of a Tom Cruise character, because it's 17 years ago and I've not seen it in 10 years. But David Ames is his character in that film, and he's got a really annoying grin in the first half hour of the film. But he's meant to be a bit of an entitled twat anyway. But that was seeping into Ethan here.
Yeah, the two do kind of mesh together.
So you kind of agreeing with the villain here, when he's like sort of like saying, grinning like an idiot every 15 seconds.
Oh yeah, no, that line stuck to me, and I'm thinking, is Tom Cruise self-aware to know that somebody's written that almost as a dig at him?
Yeah. But I don't know. But yeah, but I didn't hate it. For whatever, it's just very throwaway and just a bit kind of cliche and a bit out of time. But anyway, it's dated.
It's not good, but I had a better time with it this time than last time. So without question, because I struggled to get through it the first time.
Yeah, should have been starring Ben Stiller as Tom Cruise.
Doing Blue Steel.
We'll post that in the week, but just for anyone who doesn't get to see it, what is it again?
Oh, there was an MTV sketch that was like centered around the film, and it was like Ben Stiller playing Tom Cruise's like stunt double. Yeah, and he just like it's basically sort of like that. Like he just constantly just turns up regardless whether he's invited or not. It's like I know how Tom Cruise is just how he is. Like he always never speaks ill of anyone, and it's just one of the things where he's great. He's harmless. He's harmless. Tom Cruise is struggling to come up with nice things to say. So it is kind of amusing, and you do get a bit of John Woo, who does surprisingly bit of acting comedy as well.
I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I just had to look at it to get the feel of it. Yeah, and I was like, I'll watch that before I post it. It feels very... I don't even know what I mean by this, because I won't have seen one of them in years, but it feels quite appropriate for like the MTV Video Music Awards or
definitely.
Movie Awards or whatever. It's the sort of thing they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
okay. Well, I find the problem is we sit here and we make all these judgments, Chris.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse, really, when you think you come across as clueless. It's like people who think they know what they're talking about just because they've seen one or two films. And we're sat here like talking like we know about like music and cinematography. To be honest, what do I know about this film?
I know fuck all.
Nothing. And that's worrying, really. What's more worrying is we get through 2 hours of bullshit before we realise we know nothing every week. Got our format a bit back to front there. But anyway, Becca.
Yeah, we covered a lot of the factage as we discussed the movie. So a bit of a mixed bag. So yeah, this is the only film so far, so good, in the series where Ethan Hunt actually works for the IMF team. The other films he's either disavowed or on the run or going rogue.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the first time we actually see him do work for IMF. Fun fact number 2.
Will we be saying that next year about Bond? Fucking hell, he just did a job!
Bloody hell, he's actually done a job. He's done his mission. Oh my god. Fall off our chair. No, I think next film he's going to go rogue.
Well,
it's going to happen.
Well, to be fair, he's out, so he can't really go rogue, can he?
Yeah, but does he come back into the role before he starts work? Is he actually,
or it'll
we'll
be
have that conversation.
Lashana Lynch and she'll go rogue.
We'll have a conversation about that another time.
Anyway, fun fact number 2. I don't know how it compares to next week with the epic face-off. But obviously this TV series Mission Impossible was known for its quite revealing moments where characters peel back their mask to reveal who is underneath. This film has the highest highest amount of mask wearing in the Mission Impossible movies so far.
That surprises me.
And something they don't rely on as much as the series goes on. But I've noticed in these early movies...
It's not a standout thing in this, I believe you, but it's just not a standout thing.
No, each character does it at least twice.
Okay.
That sounds a bit rude, but... Anyway, and now I gave up all my Mission Impossible facts and thought, oh, let's find out some fun facts about Sydney.
Okay.
So yeah, the Sydney Final Web Spider is among the most deadliest on Earth. If you get bitten, it can kill you within 15 minutes. Sydney Harbour Bridge is the largest, no it's not, it's the widest along-span bridge and the tallest steel arch bridge.
And my favourite of the Playboys.
That's an extra fun fact. And my fun fact number 5, the Sydney Tower was the tallest structure when it was built and when it opened in 1981. But it's actually now the second tallest freestanding building in Australia. So yeah, if you've been to Australia, let us know what it was like. Drop us an email, tweet us, Facebook us, send us a postcard, because I would like to go.
Yeah, a postcard won't get you there though.
No, I know, but I can imagine.
I'd like to go if it weren't for those spiders that kill you in 15 seconds or whatever. I'm like, no, thank you.
Minutes, do they need the whole 15 minutes? Do they have to work on you for 15 minutes?
They're quite busy for that 15 minutes.
Yeah. Or is it, they do one thing and then bugger off and have a drink?
No, it's a country that I would like to visit, but I probably wouldn't be able to go outside hoping like, oh, there's snakes or.
I think the only thing I would say is that learning that about spiders has not really enhanced my enjoyment of Mission Impossible 2.
If that's not going to...
There's not a lot that
what
could
will?
In and of itself, not really.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's fun, folks.
More fun facts coming next week.
But about a different film. Looking forward to next week, actually, because this is where the sort of series picks up a bit. But, yeah, we are through, this feels like a major thing. We've got, the worst one out the way. I'm glad we've done, a bad film for a while, because we did so much Marvel where we were like, this isn't bad, is it?
Yeah, it's alright, yeah, it's alright, yeah, it's alright.
Yeah, it's okay, yeah, it's alright, yeah.
Every fucking week. A minor rant about fucking Doctor Strange, but even then it wasn't wildly over the top.
No, even then it was like, yeah, it's alright.
Nice to get a film that I genuinely think's not very good, even though we have covered... I think it's worth stressing a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not that knowledgeable on John Woo, so I'm happy to accept he's better than this.
Well, Chris is our Action Junkies expert.
But I'm happy to accept he's a lot better than this, and also we've done a lot worse. It stands out in a very good series, that's all. But this isn't Batman and Robin or something.
Yeah.
We've done far dumber.
It's not Die Another Day.
See films, but it has got this element of trying too hard. It's just trying too hard. But anyway, That's Mission Impossible 2, folks. Social media, you can find me at the Pasty Kid 1976 on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at Cinematronics. You can also find all the episodes at cinematronics.co.uk. We are working on everything else, I promise.
But in the meantime, you can find us on the usual places on social media. On Twitter at Expect Us to Talk, and also on Facebook, Expect Us to Talk. And you can drop us an email, expectustotalk@gmail.com. And also on YouTube, type in the handle, Do You Expect Us to Talk? And all our lovely videos shall magically appear.
As if by magic.
And there
Magic
we are,
off
folks.
interwebs.
We did it. The main thing is...
Oh.
Thank God for that. I was worried just because I struggled to get through it on my first viewing. I was genuinely like, and I'm talking years ago. I have a feeling I either fell
17
asleep
years ago.
or nearly fell asleep. Because dull action, it might as well be paint drying. But anyway, it gets better, doesn't it, Becca?
I can't wait. Yes, I'm happy to report that Do You Expect Us to Talk will return with our review of Mission Impossible 3.